All right, if there's any attendees joining, we're just going to give everybody another 30 seconds or so to get logged on and get ready for our panel. So give us just one moment. All right, I want to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for attending our session today. Everyone, welcome. We're so happy to have you, and I want to go ahead and get started. My name is Casey, and I lead product marketing here at Shipwire, and I'm excited to be moderating today's panel about women in supply chain and logistics. I'd like to set the stage for you first by giving you kind of a deep dive into our background here at Shipwire in our panel today. Shipwire is a leading third-party logistics provider supporting brands and retailers in the e-commerce fulfillment space. So for those of you that may be unfamiliar with supply chain, e-commerce fulfillment, it's normal. Perhaps you've been finding yourself at home doing a lot of online shopping during COVID, and we work in the industry that supports the magic behind when you order something online to when it shows up on your doorstep. That is the industry that we support here at Shipwire with regards to fulfillment services and also the technology that powers it on the back end. So we support a large variety of brands and retailers that range from consumer electronics to food and beverage, to pet products, to health and beauty products, you name it. We get to support these wonderful companies getting their product from them to their end customers. So our panel today consists of 5 inspirational women from Shipwire who are really leading the way when it comes to women in supply chain and logistics. I get the pleasure of working with them every day, and they all have really unique stories on how they've entered this historically male-dominated industry. And today they'll be sharing tips and strategies on the benefits of being a woman in this trending industry. So I want to let you know that our lady panelists today represent all parts of our customer journey and experience and include Cristina Aguilar from our customer support team, Lydia Bouaricha, who supports our sales team, Maja Konrad, who heads up pricing and transportation, as well as Carlisha Evans, who's one of our key lead account managers, and then Chantra Park, who actually leads all of product here at Shipwire. So before we kick off the panel, I want to just give you a quick reminder. And we'd love for you to submit any questions that you have in the event Q&A in the Whova app. So if you have any questions, please submit them there, and we'll be looking at those for the end of the session for our Q&A part of the session. Any question is welcome, something about supply chain, logistics, how these panelists have gotten into their career, anything that might spark your interest throughout the session. We'd love to hear from you. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to kick off our panel with our first question. And the first question is, why did you choose to go into a career in supply chain logistics, and how does that relate to the tech industry?
Yeah, thanks, Casey. I'll take this one. My name is Chantra Park, and I currently lead the product and design team at Shipwire. In my current role, I delight customers by delivering technology-based platform features for logistics and fulfillment services in the supply chain world. From ordering from online, from the e-commerce sites and the marketplaces, to managing the inventory and orders through our platform, to sending the information to the warehouses so that it can be delivered to the end customer's doorstep. So I've been in e-commerce technology for roughly 20 years, mostly in technology before the buy button. From seeing the product online, searching for it, eventually buying it. And then in the past few years, I've been focused on everything after the buy button. So how you get the product to the warehouse and when and how the information is sent, picked, packed, and delivered to an end customer in a box. I started working at KFC in high school, and you would think, chicken? How hard is it to sell chicken? And it was a lot of supply chain logistics involved. Like even though it is a franchising and it's a day-to-day food delivery, but there's so much more involved. Now I'm helping customers sell a variety of products from multiple industries and verticals, from t-shirts to energy bars and water. Supply chain logistics is such an interesting technology space, and I would say supply chain logistics chose me.
Thanks, Chantra. And I'm glad it chose you because I love working with you. That's for sure. Hi, I'm Maja. I have been in the supply chain industry for 16 years, and I'm responsible for pricing and transportation strategy at Shipwire. This means I manage a portfolio of small parcel carriers like FedEx and UPS to ensure that profitability, revenue, and customer needs are met. So why did I join this industry? Well, my answer is less intellectual than Chantra's, but perhaps more romantic. I actually follow a guy I met in business school all the way to Switzerland. And this was the only job I could get without speaking German. So I guess it pays off to work for a global industry where everyone's primary language of communication is English. Since then, I learned about the vast possibilities of being tied to an industry that encompasses all aspects of business, from the supply chain when an item is actually manufactured to e-commerce when the item is sold. You truly can grow your career once you have that niche. And of course, the good news is I'm still with the same guy. So it's a win-win situation, definitely for me.
I absolutely love that story, Maja. Thank you so much for sharing it. And my name is Carlisha Evans, and I am a senior client account manager, high level as account manager. I pretty much work with the brands that we've been talking about to help them grow in their market and to maintain customer satisfaction. To get into my story, I actually stumbled across supply chain. I was, let's say about 10 years ago, I was just looking for a job that will work with my college schedule. And notice I said job and not career because I had no idea about like what really the supply chain world had to offer me. So I actually started out at the warehouse as a temporary receiving clerk. And even at the warehouse level, we had technology that we had to use in order to support our customer. At the time, the customer was T-Mobile. And so receiving in their buyer's remorse phones, we would actually provide the disposition of that cell phone to T-Mobile in pretty much real time. And we also would send photos of the product as well, pretty much letting the customer know, like, we received your product. No, we didn't receive your product, because there's been times where we've received boxes of bricks and water bottles, everything but a phone. So in order for T-Mobile to provide visibility to their end customers about what we actually received, we provided photos for them. And so I just want to fast forward 10 years later and still in supply chain. And the technology piece has just grown so much. And even as an account manager today, I am still embedded in technology. It is a part of my day-to-day. And honestly, in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, because there's so much that is being developed right now to support this industry.
Yeah, that's a great point, Carlisha. The technology has really come a far way in this industry that's kind of historically been old school operations, I'm going to call it, to now we're just thriving in this tech industry to make everything work on the back end. So thanks for sharing your story. I'd like to move on to the next question for you lovely panelists. Can you please define what is supply chain and logistics and technology?
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Before I even kick it off and answer this question, wanted to apologize for my missing background as well. Had some internet issues as I was trying to log in to speak to all of you lovely ladies. So I'll kick it off and talk a little bit more about how we define supply chain logistics and technology. As Casey mentioned, my name is Lydia, and I head up our strategic accounts team. And supply chain. So supply chain for me is truly a collaboration of multiple teams' efforts working together to manage the flow of a product from when it's manufactured to when the end consumer receives that final product. We as a strategic logistic provider not only oversee the multi-step process of transportation, warehousing, customized outbound packaging, but with the advancements of technology, for example, the Shipwire platform, an omni-channel SaaS management system, we're able to optimize and simplify the complexities of supply chain, as well as provide the visibility and the organizational control of the business that many e-commerce customers may be lacking today. We understand that in this realm, it's our job to help streamline many of those inefficiencies of operations, present optimal solutions for transportation, and provide our customers with the transparency that they direly need in order to keep up with the e-commerce growth we've seen in the last few years. You know, something to keep in mind here is that as e-commerce grows, so do we, and so do the increased product requirements and the consumer demands. We're constantly challenging ourselves to find new ways to optimize our supply chain solutions for our partners to be more automated, personalized, and cost-effective, so that we can help support and transform our customers to attain the success that's in a constantly evolving industry.
Yeah, Lydia, I think this is a great explanation. What I like to add to that is that in our e-commerce Shipwire world, small parcel shipping plays an integral role in the supply chain. The e-commerce sellers right now want to get the product to their customers as fast as possible at the lowest cost. At the same time, the end customer, which is us, expect their packages yesterday. I know I'm one of them. So this is where the supply chain expertise really come in place. With the network analysis, we can recommend strategic placement of the warehouses where the time in transit can be upgraded and your shipping costs lower. And therefore, packages will arrive as fast as possible to your house.
And Maja, I would like to say that transportation is always a hot topic for my customers. So I'm always talking about your subject. And if you're just now joining, my name is Carlisha Evans, and I am a senior account manager. And I've been in supply chain logistics for approximately 10 years now. And in the account management role, we support a variety of customers in different retail verticals, such as Hintwater, Peloton, Moose Jaw, who does apparel, and who's another one? My Heritage, that's another one. And it's really important that the account managers provide a strategic partnership with our customers. At the end of the day, we want to be an advocate for our customers and be a liaison for our customers internally to our cross-functional team. Shipwire is a software as a service platform with fulfillment services, and utilizing our platform and understanding how it works with our customers' technology and their own systems is really important. And as an account manager, we're tasked to make sure that our customer is fully educated on our platform, how to use it, some of the benefits of using it, making sure that they truly understand the value of our platform. That's very key for us. And as we educate our customers about how to use our platform, it's really important that we not only focus on the platform itself, but to also gain a really trusting relationships with our customers so that we can have very strategic conversations with them about where they want to go in the market. Do they want to expand to another warehouse? Do they want to become international? Because guess what? Shipwire more than likely has a solution for them. And if they don't, if we don't, it's my job to take that information back internally to my team so that they can solution it. And so I work with my cross-functional teams often, like Chantra, who's over product, or Maja, and I let them know exactly what's going on with my customers, providing them with insight and visibility to how my customers feel and where they want to move within the market. It's only going to allow us to grow, and it allows our customers to grow at the end of the day. And I like to say we are the quarterback of information, because we pass along information between various markets and various team members so that we all can grow, our customers and Shipwire as well. So just to wrap it up, in the account management world, we touch all aspects of the customer experience, including the technology piece. And that's why I'll end with that. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Carlisha. It's so important to realize how interconnected all these different positions are to really make supply chain flow it's a very complex industry that we work in and support. And it's so interesting to see how all the different players come together to really make it happen at the end of the day and get that package to your door, really. So I'd like to move on to the next question, probably my favorite question of today's panel, actually. So the question is, how do you prove yourself in a predominantly male-dominated industry that you have the leadership skills to move your career forward?
I'll answer that one, Casey. So hi, everyone. My name is Cristina Aguilar, and I help manage our customer support teams here in Shipwire. And for me, honestly, I never viewed that as something negative. I've actually viewed that as an opportunity, being the only woman on the team. For me, it's really important to showcase what you do bring to the table. I had a lot of great men in my career that, you know, I was the only woman, but they, you know, saw that as like, hey, she probably has a totally different, you know, perspective than we do. So for me, you know, I always said, like, if you want to jumpstart your career or, you know, go further in your career, if you go that extra mile and you really, you know, learn about your industry, that's always going to take you, you know, further.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with more with that, Cristina. But I also would like to share a little bit more about my story. I've been in, this is one of my favorite questions ever, guys, because I am the only woman on a male-dominated sales team for the last 7 years. So a lot that I've learned over these last 7 years that I would like to share with everyone here. But before I kick it off, and I'd like to preface my answer by referencing Sheryl Sandberg in a book called Lean In. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it, especially for women who just want to be reminded about how strong, determined, and capable we are as women to overcome any challenge we're faced with. But when addressing the workforce and many of the challenges that women face when working in a male-dominated industry, Sandberg stated, sit at the table. Don't expect you'll go to the corner office by sitting on the sidelines. You know, as women, we tend to reserve our thoughts to ourselves in fears that we'll be dismissed or challenged in a male-dominated scenario. And our hesitation to vocalize issues, be assertive, sometimes holds us back from speaking up, and we lose focus on the value that we bring to the table. So how do we even start changing this? What are some things that I've done to help break the cycle of being intimidated of the boys club? And I would say that I found in many times a great support network of women, whether at the company or within the industry, have been instrumental to my success. Having the ability to just openly discuss some of these challenges and obstacles with other women has given me insight and a different perspective on how I'm not the only one that's facing the same challenges. And there are multiple different coping strategies that we can tap into that I probably didn't think of initially until I discussed this with this group of women. And I found at times that I didn't want to openly discuss this on a platform. And if you feel the same way, I highly recommend looking into finding a mentor. Having a senior mentor that motivates and empowers you can make a significant impact, not only for the job that you're in, but help pave the way for your career. As women, we know we can do anything we set our mind to. And by pushing ourselves every day to lean in, be assertive, confident, especially when we know what we're talking about, that challenge to really overcome that and get that corner office, we have to sit at the table, break the fear, and persevere through it all.
Lydia, I couldn't agree with you more. I think sometimes we forget that we need to put actions behind our dreams to make them our realities. As I mentioned earlier, I started out 10 years ago at the receiving department as a temporary associate, and I didn't realize the vast opportunities behind supply chain. I knew about warehousing. I knew plenty of people who worked in a warehouse, but that was just one very itty bitty small part of supply chain. And so as I'm just working and developing some small knowledge of what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, I started to notice one woman walking back and forth on the production floor. And she would come from the offices in the front, and she would She would go to the senior managers, and there was just something about her, how she would walk on the floor. It was a confidence about her that caught my eye. And the way that the senior managers would get their stuff together when she came out to the floor was definitely a sight to see. So it was just something about her that I wanted to know more. And what I did, I just opened my mouth and I asked my manager, who was a woman, what does she do? I just asked. I had no idea. And at the time, she was an account coordinator. And I learned way more about the world of supply chain just by asking that one question. And when I learned about the account manager or the account coordinator role, I knew I can do it. I had a belief in myself that was so strong that I could not sit in the same position. And I asked my manager, give me assignments, give me tasks to grow me and prepare me for that role. I want that role. I knew it. I wanted that role. When it came up, I wanted to be ready. And so she unofficially became my mentor, my manager did, because I wouldn't let it go. And as I had gained tenure on the operational floor, I would take on assignments that would be a little bit outside of my norm. Some people would call them stretch assignments that will allow me to build relationships with other managers, female and male, that I wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to build a relationship with had I not stepped up and did another assignment. And by taking on these stretch assignments, I built a good relationship with other managers. I had advocates with I ultimately had those managers become my advocate because they saw the work that I did. I ultimately built an internal brand for myself, because I was known as someone that would take on the role, take on the projects, ask the questions. I had a sense of positivity about myself that would go a long way in this role. And so as time goes on and that opportunity comes up because she moved up and she became a manager, I was ready. I was ready for that job opportunity. And so I kind of just want to circle around to the beginning, where it just took one woman being in a position, one woman to spark something in me to drive for my own goals, is to put the actions behind my goals and objectives. One woman. And I don't know if she knows it today, but I think I should probably tell her that she just really sparked something that I didn't have really any insight to. 10 years later, I'm still in account management. I'm a senior account manager now, 10 years later. And I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be in the account management role. I enjoy it that much. But I want to leave this segment and just say that honestly, ladies, just being in your position can be enough to spark someone's goals. And I really hope that one day I can be that spark for someone. It literally changed my life. And yeah, that's what I want to end with.
Nice. Thank you so much, Carlisha. That story is so good. It gets me every time, just seeing how much you've grown in your career, and it all kind of started with your own ambition. Like, I want to make this happen. I see this something is attainable, and really making sure that you see it from start to finish with the support of those around you. It's really nice. It's a great reminder that really you can do it. So I just want to, at this point, remind our attendees that you can plug in any questions you might have for our panelists today in the event Q&A. We really encourage questions and would love to take them at the end. So moving on to our next question, how has this industry changed in the last 5 years, and what do you predict will be happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'll take this one, Casey. Currently, with COVID-19, we've seen an accelerated e-commerce growth of 2 to 3 years. It's skyrocketed through the roof, and I'm sure everybody's buying online. I'm one of them too. These trends are not leaving us. The e-commerce industry has put a demand and pressure on companies to rethink their supply chain. So the supply chain industry has been forced to change and adapt quicker than ever before, especially with technology in these past 5 years. Recent events with the Suez Canal blockage, mainly impacting the Asia-Europe retailer trade has also impacted the supply chain industry, creating big increases due to COVID restocking. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we see some emerging trends. I'll talk about the technology and the green sustainability pieces first. So when we think about the first trend that we're seeing, we see technology and 5G. Technology is an enabler for transformation. When I think about how much I spend on my phone, I couldn't imagine this, even texting with my fingers back in the 90s. But now companies are starting to define even where employees can work. 5G is closer than ever as networks need to expand and support not only the workforce, but globalization and bigger amounts of data. Data is becoming the center for day-to-day business decisions for our customers. And I think with the recent events, supply chain has to adapt even quicker to the technological changes. The second trend we're seeing is green logistics. So when I say green, it's about sustainable and environmental friendly logistics. And sustainability has been around for many years. Europe has been the main push along with some regulations. But now it's being pushed from a linear to a circular approach. And when I talk about the circular approach, it stands to gain from the reduced costs in the long term, reduce waste, and reduce impact to the environment. Companies, brands, and even Ingram Micro, for example, purchases our boxes that are 90% made from recycled material. We'll talk about this in another question in detail, but we're seeing these two trends so far.
Yeah, that great insight there, Chantra. With that being said, I'd like to talk a little bit more about supply chain resilience. Supply chain resilience is a great topic to look into on a deep level. The trend to have more regionalized supply chain solutions with immediate production closer to the consumer's market has been talked about for the last 10 years. But COVID-19, this pandemic, has truly accelerated the idea that we need to look into this even more and faster. It's certainly the perpetual growth we've seen with e-commerce and COVID has just really revolutionized the industry. And the original reason that many clients would source offshore was to minimize cost due to high labor rates and additional complexities. But really, with the automation of technology and the advancements of robotics, this has become less and less of a factor. So as these changes are made, our customers are almost forced to think about the cost of energy output, fiscal stability, and even the pure simplicity of doing business. At Shipwire, we've seen thriving e-commerce customers in multiple product verticals that are looking for alternatives to stores near home or anywhere local to where they're fulfilling, right, out of their industry. So when we look at this, we have a customer that I'd like to even talk about a little bit deeper, which is Hint. Hint, if you guys haven't heard about him, Hint does these beautiful, very tasty flavored waters. I highly recommend it. Go get yourself a case at Costco or order online. But Hint is a great example of one of those customers who sell sourcing locally during the pandemic, allowing them to invest more time on growing and marketing their business and less time on the potential challenges of supply chain. You know, as supply chain evolves and it becomes more resilient and the expansions of AI and analytics evolves, this enables supply chain to really grow more, and we start proactively looking at other trends in e-commerce so that we can see what the impact is happening on the customers and what other customers we can help also assist as the industry evolves.
Thanks, Lydia. I would like to talk about the omni-channel services and the contactless deliveries as the new normal, right? Customers constantly want flexibility in their orders, whether they're online, in the actual store, they want options. We want options, delivery options, in-store, curbside orders. That's hands down my favorite. Or pick up at another location. It all is, the new norm of becoming a business, doing business. Customers also want visibility for into their orders from start to end. From an operations perspective, Companies want to understand what's happening and proactively anticipate any delays in order to minimize the impact to their business. You know, here at Shipwire, we created a team that can provide real-time support at our 3PLs, which is called on-site support services. We saw from the very beginning that we had the need for the account management team and the customer care team, but customers really wanted to feel that they were inside our 3PLs. They wanted to know, be there with our team, making sure that everything was going right. If they had their orders, if there was any delays, that they can talk to someone at the warehouse level. And that's why on-site support was created.
Awesome. And so I think Cristina talked a little bit about how we support on the operations floor, but I'd like to shed some light about how we've helped brands kind of have to shift their business, especially brands that we've seen that were predominantly in brick and mortar stores and now are looking to shift that towards the e-commerce realm. And as I mentioned, business is always evolving. COVID-19, we spoke about that being part of supply chain resilience, has also made an impact on how brands are shifting their complete business to different platforms. In the last year, we saw that consumers spent $861 billion online, with US merchants in 2020 up to an incredible 44% year over year. So that is, just to give you guys more context, that's the biggest growth we've seen in the last 2 decades. So what have we done here at Shipwire to help support brands that so rapidly? First and foremost, our internal teams have been tirelessly working on expanding our robust platform to support extensive reporting, streamlined automated B2B, dropship integration, seamless returns, and just improve operational visibility. We have also invested in building out an ecosystem of partnerships to help provide additional services to our e-commerce customers that we didn't have initially before. We're starting to see a need for DDP, more diversified international carriers. The list goes on. And in addition to that, we've also been working on expanding our network of warehouse facilities that have the operational infrastructure as well as the technology to really support these multiple product verticals and their specific requirements so that we can help our customers ship closer to their customers and, of course, more cost effective. E-commerce clients that were selling handbags before that might have been in brick and mortar are now looking to diversify their product catalog. So now they're starting to look into apparel and tech accessories. And so we had to find that we needed to help our customers ship those products. And in order to penetrate the new markets that they wanted to, we needed to also look into their requirements. Nutraceuticals and food companies needed more food grade certifications, refrigeration, climate control to deliver to their customers in rapid time. So we are confident that if we continue to invest in diversifying our capabilities and the way that we support our customers, we wouldn't be able to just help one customer in that vertical. We would be able to support many more and help eliminate some of those similar supply chain challenges that they were facing before.
That's great, Lydia. Yeah, thank you so much. It is really amazing how this industry has grown and evolved so much in the last 5 years, but really, like, honestly, in the last year with COVID. So it's exciting to see all the changes that we've had to adapt to, and honestly, the growth of all these brands that are just exploding due to it. So it's exciting to be a part of, that's for sure. I'd like to move on to our next question. What has helped you to get where you are? And what is one piece of practical advice you'd give to someone starting out in their career?
Hey, Casey, I would love to answer that. So for me, honestly, believing in myself was very key. And being vocal about my career aspiration also helped a lot as well. Sometimes they can't read your mind, so you have to help people out along the way. So definitely making sure that you're vocal about what you want in your career. That's really going to be really key for you. It was key for me, at least. And sorry, I'd like to add something else too. I think one practical advice that I think is very key as well is just taking it one step at a time and falling in love with the process, because it is a process to obtain your goals. So take it a step at a time and complete actions that are aligned with what you ultimately want at the end of the day.
Yeah, Carlisha, these are really great. I have few too that I always like to mention to whoever is willing to listen, my advice is don't be afraid to ask questions and find ways to learn as much as possible, even if it's outside your job description. So something Carlisha mentioned earlier that I really like, and she mentioned, taking on the internal role. Like nobody asked her to take that role, but she did it anyways, and that's what propelled her to her future career. So that's one of my favorite ones. And also Lydia mentioned my favorite quote, which is, don't be afraid to sit at the table. And that means to me, be confident. Don't be afraid to question the status quo, because maybe there is a better idea out there and you might just have it. So these are my favorite ones. I don't know, Cristina, what do you think?
Early on in my career, I had a manager, and this was like straight out of high school. She told me, she's like, Cristina, your work is always going to speak for itself. Being 18, I didn't really think about that, because I was like, speak for yourself. What are you talking about? But I think I've grown to really appreciate that piece of advice, because it's so true. I think that if you go that extra mile, if you stay resilient, if you always look for opportunities to learn something new, you put your heart and soul into your work, it's always going to shine. So I think that that's super important.
Nice. I love that, Cristina. Isn't that something? All really good pieces of advice, to be honest with you. I'd like to go on to one of our last questions, not quite the end, but I'd like to finish with this question and then move on to our Q&A session. So what are some ways that people from supply chain are making a difference in the world?
I really like this question. I can think of so many ways the supply chain is contributing to making a difference. At Shipwire, some examples are from helping brands to bring their new and innovative products to the global market, and therefore enable people in these countries to have access to these products, to helping with the recent crisis by fulfilling orders with some of the essential products that people needed during the pandemic. And as Chantra has mentioned earlier, 90% of our packaging comes from recycled materials. We also use soybean plastic air pillows in our packages. So we're trying to take care of our planet as well. We can see the supply chain in all aspects of our lives, from the chicken that Chantra was selling at KFC to the packages you get at your door every day.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, thanks, Maja. Just a simple way, right? Like, we bring smiles. I could remember firsthand of an experience when I was working at the warehouse. We had one of the customers, he reached out and he's like, hey, I want to donate some of my inventory to this children's hospital with kids that were, ill, sick. And he's like, I know it's peak season, I know it's Christmas, it's your super busy time, but anything that you can do to help, we'd really appreciate it. And we were like all hands on deck. Like, I did not care if we had to stay there till like midnight. We were going to get those Secret Santa packages to the kids. And afterwards, we obviously did. I explained to the team, like, look, this is really what we're going to do. And it's just for a greater cause. Everyone hands down were like, what do you need us to do? Right. And I think that it's things like that. It kind of just makes you appreciate like some of the work that you do firsthand. And it's just a nice way of like thinking, well, we were a part of that, right? And our customer, he actually did send me pictures of some, which I shared with the team. So it was just a really good feel-good moment.
Oh, that's really nice, Cristina. Thanks for sharing that. I want to move on to a couple of questions we have from our event. So the first question is, for those of you who didn't study or start out in supply chain logistics, what was your background in? I think we might have some interesting answers here. And I wonder, Lydia, just knowing you, maybe you want to kick it off.
Yeah, I'd love to. So it's actually a funny story for me as well. I'm probably one of the few that didn't have a supply chain background. I came from financial banking, and make it even funnier, my undergrad was in bioanthropology, so completely different than what you would think of supply chain, right? So financial banking really gave me a good fundamental understanding of cost and profitability, but it was really a whole different industry going into supply chain. And so I actually found it very interesting because it's a mixture of e-commerce, supply chain, but really I immersed myself into everything I could learn, right? So I was working with engineering and I was watching them for 2 weeks. I went to the warehouse floor for 2 weeks and I tried to learn everything that I could before, I think by month 1 or 2, I was like, I love this industry. I love working. I love the idea of understanding, from the beginning of how from manufacturer, I should say, all the way to the actual receipt of the product. It was, the whole ecosystem was so interesting to understand that there's so many moving parts and that I was part of that moving part. I was making a difference and making an impact on that was way more interesting than me opening up and working on bank accounts. But the reality is that you don't need to have a background in supply chain to be successful in supply chain. You can have any sort of background. I think I'm proof of that with a science major and a financial, working in the finance industry. But for sure, you can do anything you want when it comes to supply chain. So everyone is welcome.
Awesome. Do any of you other ladies want to add on to that?
I can add on. So I was a computer engineering major, and I think from supply chain, I think I followed the technology, and with the technology, some of the skill sets needed was being able to kind of understand the customer experience, making sure that we focus on the customer, and also troubleshooting, analytical skills. It's all about data. Most companies want to reduce costs and grow their revenue. So having those critical thinking, analytical skills really help get you the end-to-end view for supply chain. And supply chain is very complicated because there's so many people, so many parts. But I think having a curious mind would also allow you to kind of understand, hey, end-to-end how it will work. And then once, I think sometimes even in the product or engineering world, a lot of times the time, not too much time is spent on understanding the problem. But once you understand the problem, I think if you spend 50% of understanding the problem, you can come up with like better solutions that can actually resolve even bigger things than the problem that you're trying to solve. So supply chain has that opportunity for growth, and it's just very wide in terms of the areas that it touches.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I think it's so true. There's so many different aspects of supply chain that you can be a part of, and it's so broad that it doesn't really matter too much your background, but just your interest and I think sense of curiosity is something that we all share, kind of knowing how something works. So I'd like to move on to the next question that's come into our event today. Thank you, guys. It's a good one. What do you like most about working in this industry? And I wonder, Carlisha, if you want to start us out. I feel like you're full of positivity.
Well, I love this industry because of its complexities and not having something that's just very mundane. Supply chain challenges you. There's a sense of reward when you figure out that problem and you can create a solution for your customer. It makes me happy, at least, that I am able to provide solutions for my end customers at the end of the day. And also helping my customers grow and be successful in their industry is always, to me, a blessing. Seeing them expand to different markets and knowing that I had a part of that is always fun to see. Quick story, I was at, where was I at this weekend? I went to the vitamin shop and I saw my customer Bulletproof Coffee on the shelves, and I couldn't wait to ask the customer, like, how did you receive your product? Was it good? Like, it's just really exciting. So just seeing all the work that you've done at the stores is really fun. And like I said, the challenging piece of it is always something that I look forward to because it's not boring, right? So that's why I enjoy this industry.
I can add to that as well. What I love the most is how innovative this industry is. It constantly evolves. Lydia mentioned, with the COVID and even slightly before, the demands for same-day shipping. Now we have a lot of new companies, either the startups emerging or existing companies building on that demand and creating new technology to have this in the market. I know Chantra can attest to us here at Shipwire, our customers constantly keep us on our toes with the new demands and requests to be ahead of the market. So one of the things, it's truly amazing to see how technology can be changed, how technology can start changing this industry and how fast we have to adapt.
I'd also like to speak from like a customer support side, because at the end of the day, like this industry is heavily on the customer experience. And I think that that's one of the great things here at Shipwire, from like our sales team to our product to our implementation team. Everyone is so passionate about just delivering a really great customer experience. And I think that, because at the end of the day, we're all customers, right? Like if you have a great customer experience, and it could be anything, it could be at a restaurant, it could be with a waitress, you're prone to tell them like, oh my God, you did such an amazing job. Like, I feel good. Like, I'll do a Yelp review or something. I think that it's like super important. And yeah, that's one of the main reasons why, like, just because we work directly with a lot of the customers, and though the demands are, can be kind of hectic, I think that when we are able to deliver a great customer experience, it goes a long way.
That's great. I wonder, Chantra, if you want to add from your perspective too, kind of what's your favorite part about working in this industry?
Yeah, I like working in this industry because I get to work with these wonderful women. But it's all about the people, and it's all about the technology and being able to learn. There's never a dull moment in the industry because you have about 3 parallel lines running in parallel. There's like the supply chain, which is the traditional like way the industry was run. You have all these newer emerging technology because the technology is changing, the solutions that we come to be able to meet the customer's demand changes, and then there's customer expectations. So you have these things that are simultaneously in parallel. So there's always something new to be able to kind of learn, adapt, and be able to grow, not only from an individual perspective, but also like from the industry. And it's really exciting place to be at, because like in the next couple years, I wouldn't even say 5 years, since the pandemic hit, I do see it even exponentially growing. And if you think about like even the recent decade, I used to have internet via net zero, the dial-up, right? And look at where we are now. And in the next like 3 to 5 years, probably sooner, technology to the 5G, like I think Apple just recently rolled out their new phones that actually have 5G. So now, all the other kind of like ways that we connect, it's going to be accelerated even faster. So it's really exciting because this industry just allows you to kind of get on the bandwagon of the new technologies, like understand and adapt quickly, also grow and learn. So it's very innovative and it's disruptive and it's very customer focused. So that's why I enjoy being as a part of the supply chain industry.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Chantra. I'm glad you're a part of it too. I have a really good question that's come up in today's event just now. As someone who left the supply chain industry and is eager to return, what steps do you recommend taking? And so I'll give my 2 cents real quick, and then I'll pass it over. I think maybe Lydia, you might be one to start off the question too. So from my perspective, I was new into entering supply chain, but I can see the parallel of kind of a common theme we've talked about today is when there's an eagerness to learn and to jump in to understand something complicated, then there's room for you in supply chain. So I would say there's not necessarily like a direct path to get there, but I would say starting out connecting with people, like we're happy to all be a connection to anybody who's interested in learning anything about supply chain. Connecting with somebody in the industry is a good first step. But I do think that there's so many skills that one can have that transfers over to supply chain, that it's okay that there was a break in the career gap, for example, of I was in supply chain, then I became a teacher, I don't know what it is, and then now I want to enter supply chain again. The skill set that's needed to support supply chain, given the complexity, is so big that any kind of skill set is welcomed and needed. And there's kind of a place for everyone in supply chain, which I think is very unique to this particular industry. So I would say connecting with somebody who's currently in supply chain is a really good first step. So Lydia, do you want to add to that question? Somebody who's taken a break from supply chain and wants to get back into it?
I have to say, Casey, I think you nailed it on the head. You did an excellent job answering that question. The only thing that I would really add is that, certainly ask the questions. If you know somebody that's already connected in supply chain, we'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you as well. But the industry is always evolving, right? It's always changing. Just COVID-19 already has changed the industry by like a good 180. So I think that just educating, doing your research, look in the news, you'll be able to see that everyone has changed essentially the way that we've managed business. And so it's, if anything, it's a hip and I think that the analogy is it's a hop and a skip and then a jump, right? And so that's what this is. You can always just take, you'll take a few weeks probably ramping yourself up on all the new advancements within the technology, what new things have changed from an operations or a transportation, or I should say freight as a whole. And then, jump in and then start, swimming, or whichever analogy works for you essentially. But yeah, I think any skill set is applicable to customer supply chain. And I think if you already have the background, jumping in will be very quick and you'll be ready to go before you know it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think for anybody who's on today's session who maybe has like heard of supply chain, maybe you're just getting out of college, or you're in a career and you want to change something and you're looking for a new move, supply chain is a really exciting industry to be in right now, especially. It's really the intersection of technology and operations and the acceleration of it. This industry is super trendy. And I think a lot of people don't consider it when you're in college because it doesn't really come up in your day-to-day in the context of like, this could be a career. I know that I had never considered a job in supply chain, and I'm so glad that I've kind of found myself here, just because I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially for young people or women in supply chain. There's a lot of opportunity on the table. It's very collaborative, it's very challenging, and it's a place to really grow your career set that can be applicable in so many ways. So yeah, it's a good place to be.
I think when I first heard about supply chain, people very much were like, isn't that Amazon? Like, is that like, ship and order? Like, how complicated could it be? I think people just think product is manufactured, shipped. There's so many levels and so much to learn. And the thing about supply chain, especially for everyone listening, is that you're always learning. There isn't going to be a point where you're tapped out. You're constantly having to stay up to date with the industry, with the advancements of your own company. It's continuous. And I think that's always great, especially for us women who always want to thrive on the challenge and learn more and more. I think it's a great thing. Sorry, Casey, go ahead.
No, that's wonderful. We're actually at time for the event. So I just want to thank all of my lovely panelists and lovely ladies that I get to work with every day for sharing your personal and professional experience. And we hope that it helps anybody else on this call either learn more about supply chain or consider a career in this field. And I know all of us would be so happy to chat if anybody's interested in learning more about what we do or how we got there or anything we can help you with. We'd be so happy to share our experience. So thank you all so much, my lovely panelists, and to all of our attendees too for taking the time out of your day to join us. So thank you so much and have a good one.